Today we're going to have some fun and do a little experiment with this bubble remover machine, vacuum machine, if you will, by Resiners. I've seen information on this all over the internet, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to try it myself. You always get such mixed reviews when you look at things on the internet. So I want to try it for myself and take you along with me, and we'll check this out and see if it works and if it's worth the money. So it came very nicely boxed, of course, packaged very well, and it included several of these cups to mix your resin in. The recommendation is that you do 3 ounces at a time in the machine. So this is a clamshell that I made previously, and it has quite a few micro bubbles in it. So we're going to do another clamshell today using the machine, and we will compare the two and see if there are fewer bubbles when we compare the two clamshells side by side. So I'm going to go ahead and mix up some Let's Resin epoxy resin. This is the 1-to-1 ratio. It says bubble free, crystal clear, low odor, high gloss, self-leveling, all those good things, which we know that these usually are not completely bubble free, but I do like the Let's Resin brand, and this is a kind of a medium viscosity, not too thick, not too thin. So they say with the bubble machine that thicker viscosity resins take a little bit more work. You may have to run them through the machine more than one time to get all of the bubbles out. So we're just going to start with a small amount today. We'll start with that recommended 3 ounces, and we'll see what we get. So I'm going to go ahead here and I'm going to mix together the A and the B here, 1-to-1 ratio to get started. And we'll also talk a little bit about the heat mat that you'll see underneath there. We're going to work with that a little bit today too. So, not a lot of bubbles in there, but there's some. And I want to get that right up to that 1.5 ounce line. So for those of you that took home economics in school, you always have to look at eye level. I can't show you eye level with the camera. I could, but I'd have to tilt it and I'd probably make you dizzy. So you always want to make sure you're looking eye level at your lines so you know exactly what you have in your cup. I don't even know if they make you take home ec anymore, but we used to have to do that back in the day. I'll spare you the year. Yeah, and then we'll go ahead and we'll put the B in here. And again, if you're a beginner, sometimes people will put the thicker resin in first, which in the case of Let's Resin, it's usually the part B or the hardener that is the thicker of the two. So sometimes I would start with part B and then put part A, the thinner, on top. I honestly don't know if it makes a difference. I have done it both ways and I really haven't seen any difference in the outcome. So just make sure that you don't put part A in twice or part B in twice, which I have done. So I have a little method where I always set my part A back in the box once I pour it, or at least completely out of the way so I don't put the same resin in twice. Trust me, you get going with this stuff and it's so easy to do. And I also wipe everything down. I don't want to get resin all over everything, and I certainly don't want to get it on the inside of this brand new machine. So I made sure to wipe down the side of the cup here just to keep things nice and clean. So let's see here. Let's see if I can get this all adjusted. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to mix this for about 5 minutes. And for those of you that are beginners, when you're mixing, typically I go in counterclockwise fashion and I go slowly. I take my stir stick and I go around the edges of the cup and around the bottom a few times. I don't lift my stick out of the resin. I keep everything in the cup. That way you tend to have fewer bubbles. If you mix like crazy, you're going to whip up a bunch of bubbles. So I like to just take my time and go slow. and make sure that I'm not introducing a whole lot of bubbles here. I won't make you watch this whole thing. I will fast forward through this process, but I wanted to make sure for the beginners that I'm explaining why I'm kind of going slow and in clockwise fashion here. Okay, it has been 5 minutes, and I'm not going to wait an additional 5 minutes like I normally would before um, decanting this. I'm just going to go ahead and put it inside of the bubble machine here. So let's put this here in the center where you can see, and we'll set the lid aside. And I'm going to go ahead and get the stir stick out of here. And I'll scrape the resin off of that. And I'll wipe off my stir stick here. Don't want to get resin all over everything. And in the machine we go. And there are some bubbles in there for sure. I'm going to split this into two parts. So I'm only going to do a small amount at one time in the machine, just to see. We'll get all the resin off the side. And put it in, and we'll put the lid on. Get this here where you can see. So on the far left where it says AI, that is the pressure that we'll see in there, the pressure that's generated. There's a little valve here that you want to make sure that that is closed. We'll plug this in. The center button is the on-off button, and then the button on the far left is the pause and start, advance thing. So we're gonna do this for let's do 9 minutes. So if you look on the left, you see that the pressure is building, kilopascals, 27, 20. So when this gets to about 95 kilopascals is when the bubbles will start to really come out of the resin. And I will fast forward through a lot of this, but I'll go ahead and make sure that you can see the bubbles as they are dissipating. Now the pressure's coming up. And you can see just about at 93. So it takes a couple minutes just about to get up to the proper pressure. All right, now we're at 95, so I'm going to go ahead and shift the camera here. Hopefully I won't make you ill. And we'll take a look and watch the bubbles and see what goes on with the bubbles here. Try not to make you all dizzy. Let's get aligned here. Well, you can see a lot of bubbles. So those weren't in there. It didn't look like that when I first put this in the machine. So this is what you don't see that's actually in there. And we'll fast forward through this so you can watch the bubbles.
Caught up in a wild that summer, rolling in thunder. Started as a welcome friend like any other June.
Sorry about the camera work there, guys. It's really hard when you fast forward through stuff to keep that steady. That wasn't me. That was actually the motion of the camera. I'm going to go ahead and release the pressure from inside of the container. And I still see some small bubbles at the surface, but all right. So we have to wait about 30 seconds. Once you open that pressure valve, they recommend you wait about 30 seconds to let all of the pressure release, and then you'll be able to take the top off. Otherwise, it can be, I guess, a little bit challenging to get the top off. But all right, let's go ahead and take it off and see what we get here. Well, it came out pretty good. And I do still see some small bubbles in there. Nothing got on the container, thank heavens. Let's see if I can show you. It looks relatively clear to me. All right, it looks good. I ran 2 batches through, by the way, one off camera. Now I'm going to be using my heat mat. It's by Resin. And I'm going to do a couple little projects here all at one time. So I've got one that I'm going to go ahead and fill the clamshell with, and then the other container of resin I'm going to go ahead and make some pendants. So this is the clamshell mold that I was referring to. It's kind of deep. And I'm going to try to pour this in here without a lot of motion and creating a lot of bubbles. So no matter whether you're using a machine or not, if you just dump your resin in and don't pour it slowly, you're still going to generate bubbles. There's just no two ways about it. So you will have to decide whether or not the expense of the machine is worth it. I got this on Amazon for $99. It was a special. I think it normally goes for like $149. So at the end of the day, we'll see when we compare the 2 clamshells what we get and if really the expense is worth it. I think from what I saw initially, and my apologies that I didn't really show you a very good close-up before I poured this into the mold, but I know there's still going to be some bubbles. So I'm going to take the heat gun here and I'm just going to go over the top. I can see some fine bubbles, and again, to spare you the camera movement and making you dizzy, I didn't get in way too close on this, but we'll see. So I'm just going to blow some of these surface bubbles off of here, just some small finite ones, and you're going to have that. I just don't see how you can avoid having some bubbles. The idea is to reduce the number or the amount that you have and make your mold as clear as can be, or your project as clear as can be. So I'm going to go ahead and just get this stuff out of my way here, and I'll bring the camera in a little bit. See if we can see. It looks relatively clear from here. Can see a few in there. Like I said, it's a deep mold. Okay, let's come back. It has been about 6 hours on the heat mat. And let's take a look at what we got here. I love this little food tent. It keeps the lint and dust and cat hair out of my projects. So let's go ahead and demold our clamshell here. I also made some pendants with the extra resin that I had poured. And see what we get with this. A little bit of a challenge sometimes to get these out. I didn't spray it with the mold release. Okay. So it looks pretty good. There are just a few bubbles. I don't know if you can really see that or not. See that with the lighting there a little bit on the left. But in general, I think it looks really good. I don't think anybody would really even notice those few little bubbles there. Let's look at the other one that I did previously where I didn't use the vacuum machine. And there's quite a few bubbles in here. Again, with the lighting, you can't really see unless you look very carefully. But I do think in general, the one that came out of the bubble machine does look a little bit better. So let's put this cardboard back here and see if you can see the bubbles in this one. This is the first one I did. Again, it's still so finite. I do think that this looks a little bit more transparent than the other one, than the first one. Just a few bubbles there. But I do think overall it is better. I do see a difference. Whether or not it's worth the cost of the machine, that is something that you'll have to decide. So this is the first project using this. We'll have to give it a try on some other things. I did actually pour a trinket dish, a turtle trinket dish. Off camera, I had mixed up some more resin and put it through the machine. So let's take a look and see what we get from a bubble perspective. This is a new mold that I made, so I did use a mold release spray in there, and that could contribute. Yeah, there are quite a few bubbles in here. So let me put this cardboard up here again so you can really see the bubbles in this one. Now this may have been me and my technique. I did not apply my torch to this. It's a deeper mold, and I should have applied more heat to it, and I did not. So that may be my fault. I could have mixed it or poured it in too quickly, and it didn't come out very well. This is a turtle that I did not use the bubble machine on, and it's relatively clear. There's some bubbles in here. So this is where, you're going to have to experiment and see. Yeah, see, there's quite a few. Again, I think this is user technique. You'll just have to see if it's worth it. So at the end of the day, you'll have to decide whether or not you want to invest in that, in this machine or another machine similar. I think right now it's a worthwhile investment for me, and I will definitely keep using it and trying to adjust my technique to see if I can get it perfect. If you do have one of these machines, or if you do purchase one, I'd love to see your work, and I'd love you to drop your feedback on the machine or any of the other vacuum machines in the comments below. Again, not a paid promotion. I'm just doing this to kind of find out whether or not I think it really works. Some people, when you read the reviews, really like it. Others are lukewarm about it. Some don't like it at all and don't see a difference. I feel like I do. But anyway, that's just me. So again, thanks for joining me today. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. I appreciate your likes. Please do show me your work. And until I see you again the next time, guys, be safe, and I'll see you later.